Sometimes life challenges us to show that anything is possible. I had an appointment with a lovely woman, a potential client in her 60s. She reached out to me because for the last 6 years, her health had been declining. Among the usual problems that women face as they approach retirement, thyroid issues, osteoporosis, some falls, neck degeneration, a lower back fracture, and double carpal tunnel. She also shared her deepest and most embarrassing pain: bowel incontinence. This took me by surprise. It was something I had never worked with before. I had successfully helped resolve urine escapes and incontinence, but bowel incontinence, I had not come across anyone at such a young age having this issue. When I researched this new case, I discovered that 2% of women in North America experience it, over 6 million women, and the number is increasing. These are women who find themselves avoiding socializing, whose primary goal is to always stay close to a washroom. Women who silently suffer every day, probably asking themselves, why me? Every moment their thoughts allow them to. My heart went out to this lady. After her relaying to me how this condition impacted her life, I felt an immediate need to help in any way possible. I promised improvements, but how much and how fast depends on so many variables and differs for each individual. These questions are impossible to answer with any accuracy. Usually, when I get to know the client, their conditions, and their history, I have an idea of how quickly we can achieve our goal, if they fully commit to following the protocol precisely. Bearing in mind the protocol is a dynamic procedure that is adjusted as the client progresses and how their condition responds. What is bowel or fecal incontinence? It is leakage of stool or gas that can't be controlled, urgency to have a bowel movement, and decreased awareness of the need to have a bowel movement or pass gas. Simply put, it means you are not able to hold your feces or stool until you get to a toilet. Try to put yourself in this position and imagine the mental discomfort of wearing a diaper, the anxiety of having an accident, perhaps limited access to a washroom at a social event or even someone's home. The stress alone of this situation would negate any pleasure that you might derive from being with friends, at a concert or celebration. Can you possibly comprehend how you would feel and cope with this issue? My heart ached when I tried to put myself in my client's shoes. Despite all my training, experience, and success, I had that moment of fear that I might not be able to help this case settled in my chest for a while. What made me feel most insecure was that my client's mother also had this condition. Despite my typical resistance to the phrase, "it is hereditary," I know that some conditions are so deeply rooted that little can be done to heal them, or it would take many years of 100% dedication. Positive beliefs and faith in the body's strength are one thing. The practical realization of a dream is often an immense challenge. Once my emotions settled, my first stop was to update myself on the latest research on this condition since my inauguration into holistic healthcare. I also reached out to medical specialists in this field to confirm the protocol I intended to implement, to leave no stone unturned. I sat down to finalize my recovery plan for my client, writing a comprehensive plan and protocol prescribing a recommended diet, exercises, and health techniques to assist the body's integrated systems on a path to recovery and optimum health is a very demanding task, as every client has unique needs that must be considered. These needs must be addressed individually and with care. A change in any one of the body's systems will affect or impact the other body system to some degree. The fecal incontinence was occurring on average every 2 weeks. My first task was to learn more about the mother-daughter relationship and understand why the daughter expected to be like her mother. This is a significant psychological roadblock to success. Then I had to guide the client to find her base nutrition, which we would build on later, and finally, address the movement factor and herbal support. The lumbo-pelvic hip core complex consists of musculoskeletal structures that stabilize the spine and pelvis. These structures move in over 22 axes. This area of our body is where life starts and where it begins to deteriorate due to dehydration and major misalignment or disease. The solution is to concentrate on the lumbo-pelvic hip mobilization, specific lifestyle changes that will work for her needs, and vigilant attention to her physical and mental progress. Listening to every detail she relays to me and responding appropriately and immediately is essential to fine-tune the protocol to obtain optimal progress. For the 3.5 months working together, we have achieved 3 months without a bowel incontinence accident and no falls at all. I can't wait to see my client take the next step towards robust health. As a team, we have big dreams and great potential.